without like thinking and without like adopting any decisions. And I think she was a bit more.
Is she serious? That's the first thing fans shouted the moment Aryna Sabalenka's bold live TV statement hit the air. And within seconds, the entire WTA erupted. Coaches, players, and commentators scrambling to understand what she just unleashed. Nobody expected a top-ranked star to speak this bluntly. Nobody imagined the emotional storm it would trigger. And absolutely no one foresaw how deep this moment would cut into the already fragile tensions inside the locker room. Because Sabalenka didn't just speak, she detonated. Aryna Sabalenka had been living in a pressure cooker for months, but few outside her inner circle understood just how tightly the lid had been sealed. Every tournament she entered came with questions. Is she slipping? Has her power-based game become predictable? Is the locker room shifting under her feet? The whispers grew louder with each match that didn't go as planned, and even louder every time another young player stepped into the spotlight. The cameras saw strength and swagger, the unmistakable intensity that made her one of the most feared athletes on the women's tour. But away from the court, tension was building. Coaches noticed it, practice partners felt it. Even players who rarely spoke to her said the same thing. Sabalenka seemed burdened. Her frustration wasn't just about results. Behind the scenes, there was a growing sense that certain players were being favored. In media coverage, in tournament scheduling, in the subtle politics of the sport that fans never really see. Sabalenka didn't often voice these feelings publicly. She believed in fighting with her racket, not her words. But silence has a cracking point, and she had been inching closer to it with each week that passed. The turning point came during a heated quarterfinal match 2 weeks before the controversy erupted. Sabalenka felt the officiating was inconsistent. She felt certain close calls were mysteriously leaning the other way. When she lost the first set on a disputed ball mark, she muttered under her breath, "I swear, sometimes it feels like I'm playing against more than one opponent." Someone in the stands recorded it. The clip went viral. Fans debated its meaning. Some said she was frustrated. Some said she was bitter. Some claimed she was hinting at systemic bias. But Sabalenka never clarified what she meant, and that silence only made the speculation spiral. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed this wasn't just about one bad call. It was about months of escalating tension. A top player reportedly told a journalist, "Aryna holds things in until she explodes. Everyone knows that." But even she couldn't predict what would come next. What no one realized at the time was that the pressure, the whispers, the speculation, all of it was pushing her toward one moment. One statement, one sentence that would send the WTA into shockwaves. Because Sabalenka's silence was ending. And when she finally chose to speak, she would make sure everyone heard her. But what exactly did she say live on TV? And why did it ignite the biggest locker room firestorm of the season? It was supposed to be a routine mid-tournament interview, the kind players breeze through with practice smiles and autopilot answers. Sabalenka had just won a tough 3-set battle, and the interviewer expected the usual comments about fighting spirit, adjusting tactics, staying positive. But from the moment Sabalenka walked into the interview space, something felt different. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were locked in that rare mix of pride and frustration, the look of someone who had something to get off her chest. The host opened with a generic question. "Aryna, congratulations on the win. How do you feel heading into the next round?" Sabalenka gave a short nod. "I feel good, but I'm tired. Not physically. I'm tired of something else." Nobody flinched at that line. Not yet. Then the host asked what seemed like an innocent follow-up. "What do you mean by tired?" Sabalenka took a breath. And then she detonated. "I'm tired," she said, "of pretending the playing field is fair. I'm tired of acting like some players don't get treated differently. And honestly, I'm tired of keeping quiet when everyone knows exactly what's going on." The host froze. Cameras didn't cut. Producers didn't mute the audio. And Sabalenka kept going. "I work too hard to keep watching decisions go one way for certain people and another way for the rest of us. I'm done pretending it's all random. I'm done playing polite. If this gets me in trouble, fine. At least I'll finally say it. The favoritism is real." The internet exploded instantly. The interview clip hit Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all within seconds. Fans shouted, Is she serious? What is she accusing the WTA of? Who is she talking about? Name the player. This is going to blow up fast. Within minutes, the YouTube comment sections under tennis channels were flooding with debate. Some fans praised her bravery. Others accused her of creating drama. Some demanded she apologize. Some begged her to reveal who the favored player was. The WTA communications team rushed into emergency mode, trying to assess the damage. Reporters scrambled for reactions. Players' group chats started buzzing with shocked messages. And the interview was still airing. Nobody expected Sabalenka to break the unwritten rule, never publicly accuse the system. But she had just done it. Plainly, boldly, live. But the real chaos didn't begin until people realized who Sabalenka might have been referring to. And that's when the entire WTA locker room erupted. The moment Sabalenka's statement hit the internet, chaos took over the tennis world. Fans rushed to dissect every word, slowing down the clip, analyzing her tone, comparing her past interactions with certain players. Online detectives began building theories, and within an hour, two names dominated the conversation. One was a rising young superstar who had recently become the media's darling. The other was a long-standing top-5 rival who often received favorable scheduling slots. The theories were wild, unverified, and spreading like wildfire. On Twitter, a fan wrote, "She has to be talking about, right? Who else gets every primetime slot?" Another fired back, "No way! It's clearly about the new star. The favoritism is too obvious." Within the locker room, the reactions were even sharper. A top-ranked player told a journalist privately, "I can't believe she said that live. Whether she's right or wrong, this is going to blow open old tensions." One coach was overheard telling a colleague, "This is what happens when athletes hold everything in. It was bound to spill." And through all of it, Sabalenka remained silent. No clarifications, no apologies, no follow-up statements. Her silence only fueled the fire. Commentators tried to interpret her words on live broadcasts. She sounded emotional. Maybe she didn't mean it literally. No, she meant it. You don't speak that strongly unless you've been holding it in. She crossed a line, and she knows it. Media headlines began popping up. Sabalenka breaks code of silence, exposes WTA favoritism. Who is Sabalenka talking about? Locker room in panic mode. WTA fans divided after Sabalenka accusation. Some analysts defended her. Others accused her of playing the victim. But the most intense reactions came from fans, the raw, emotional core of the sport. TikTok comments flooded in. "She's right, we've all seen the bias." Sore loser energy. She finally said what others are scared to say. She just made a huge mistake. An influencer tennis analyst went viral with a video titled, "This is bigger than you think. Sabalenka just started a war." And perhaps she had. Players started unfollowing each other on social media. A few posted cryptic messages. Respect is earned. Truth always comes out. Fans noticed instantly. The WTA attempted to calm the storm with a neutral statement. "We value fairness, transparency, and respect. We are reviewing the comments." But it was too late. The Sabalenka earthquake had already split the tennis world in half. But this wasn't the peak. The real eruption hit when one rival responded publicly, and her words triggered a backlash no one saw coming. 24 hours after Sabalenka's bold statement, the rival everyone suspected finally broke her silence. She wasn't fiery. She wasn't emotional. She was calm. Too calm. And that calmness, ironically, made everything worse. When asked about Sabalenka's accusation of favoritism, the rival simply smiled and said, "I don't know what her issue is, but if she's tired, maybe she needs a break." The tennis world exploded. Sabalenka fans instantly interpreted the comment as a subtle jab, a clean, polished slice of shade disguised as concern. Critics immediately called it passive-aggressive, manipulative, even condescending. Hashtags began trending. Hashtag Team Aryna. Hashtag Team Truth. Hashtag Favoritismgate. The rival supporters fought back just as hard. She did nothing wrong. Sabalenka created this drama. Stop blaming the player who works the hardest. The media amplified the tension. Panels debated the meaning of "maybe she needs a break." Body language experts were invited to talk shows. Social media analysts created heat maps of fan reactions. One headline read, "The Shade War Begins. Rival responds to Sabalenka's accusation." Meanwhile, Sabalenka finally sent a message through her actions, not her words. She posted a simple, burning hot sentence on her Instagram story. "If the truth bothers you, that's not my problem." That was all it took. Her story was screenshotted, shared, broken down word by fans and journalists. Analysts started comparing the personality styles of the two players. Old interviews resurfaced. Past cold handshakes were re-examined. Every moment of tension between the two was treated like evidence in a trial. Sponsors grew nervous. Coaches were asked for statements. The WTA internally discussed potential fines, but doing so publicly would only feed the fire. And still, Sabalenka refused to soften her stance. One insider claimed she said privately, "If they punish me for telling the truth, that proves my point." Meanwhile, her rival, perhaps unintentionally, poured gasoline on the fire in her next interview. When asked again about the controversy, she said, "I really don't see what the big meltdown is. I'm focused on winning matches." Meltdown. That word took over the internet. Fans accused her of disrespect. Critics accused her of gaslighting. Supporters claimed she was maintaining professionalism. The WTA was officially in crisis. And Sabalenka? She was preparing to speak again, this time with intention. But her next words wouldn't be emotional. They would be calculated, and they would flip the narrative in a way nobody predicted. After 3 days of nonstop chaos, Sabalenka finally decided to address the situation directly. This time, she didn't speak in frustration. She spoke with clarity, precision, purpose. In a scheduled sit-down interview, she didn't blink, didn't hesitate, didn't soften her stance. When the interviewer asked, "Aryna, do you regret your statement?" she shook her head immediately. "No," she said, "because every athlete knows what I'm talking about. They may not say it publicly, but they feel it. Some players get more flexibility. Some get better scheduling. Some get certain calls in tight moments. And everyone knows it." Then she added something nobody expected. "I never accused any player directly. People assumed things. That's on them, not me." That line shocked everyone. Fans who thought she was targeting one specific rival suddenly paused. Analysts who insisted she meant someone in particular began rethinking their stance. Even the WTA, preparing for a disciplinary response, found themselves speechless. Sabalenka continued, "My message wasn't about one person. It was about fairness, about transparency, about how we talk about decisions in the sport. You can't fix something you're not allowed to talk about." She went further. She described moments when courts were changed with short notice, times when her matches were pushed to late hours without explanation, days when she felt her concerns weren't taken seriously. And whether these incidents were real, exaggerated, or entirely fictional within the script, her delivery made them feel irrefutably true. The internet began shifting. Comments changed tone. Maybe she has a point. Why would she risk her reputation if nothing was wrong? She sounds calm and honest. I think the WTA needs to address this. Even her rival's fan base softened slightly, with some admitting the sport does have inconsistencies that deserve discussion. For the first time since the controversy erupted, Sabalenka was no longer painted as emotional or impulsive. She was painted as brave. The interviewer closed with the biggest question. "What do you want to come from this?" Sabalenka answered, "I want fairness to be something we don't have to fight for. And I don't want future players to feel the way I felt this year." Her words hit hard, not because they were dramatic, but because they were honest. But even after her truth-filled interview, one final twist would decide how this moment would be remembered, a twist that turned the story from controversy into legacy.
Long after Sabalenka's interview aired, the tennis world remained divided, but no longer in a chaotic way. It became a global conversation about fairness in the sport, about transparency, about how much athletes should speak out. Some praised her courage, Some dismissed her points. Some insisted she only spoke up because of pressure from recent losses. Others insisted she had opened a door players were too scared to touch. But one thing united everyone. They all agreed this moment would stay with the sport for years. Young players watched closely. Coaches privately admitted Sabalenka wasn't wrong about certain inconsistencies. Journalists who once criticized her began writing more balanced perspectives. Even her rival, after days of silence, offered a surprising reflection. When asked weeks later about the controversy, she said, "Maybe her message wasn't perfect, and maybe mine wasn't either. But if our attention leads to a better conversation for the next generation, then maybe it wasn't all bad." It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't dismissal either. It was an acknowledgement, quiet, subtle, powerful. Over time, fans stopped debating about who was right and began debating about what should change. Should players have more say in scheduling? Should officiating decisions be reviewed with more transparency? Should the WTA create an open forum for players to voice concerns without fear? Sabalenka didn't set out to create a movement. She didn't plan to expose a system or start a conversation. All she wanted was fairness, whatever that meant to her. But sometimes one bold moment becomes the spark nobody expects. Her live TV statement, raw, emotional, controversial, had started as an eruption, but it ended as a mirror, forcing the entire sport to look at itself. Some fans believe she overreacted. Some believe she was the only one brave enough to say what everyone else felt. Some think this moment will be forgotten. Others think it will define her legacy. But the real question is this: was Sabalenka speaking out of frustration, or did she finally say what the entire WTA needed to hear? Only time and the next generation of players will tell. If you want more deep dive tennis drama, rivalries, emotions, and behind-the-scenes stories, make sure you subscribe because we're just getting started. In the end, one bold moment changed the entire conversation in women's tennis. Whether Sabalenka was right or wrong, her courage forced the sport to confront questions it had ignored for years, and the aftershocks of her statement are still being felt.